without you, none of us can adjudicate the overwhelming details of leadership and life. The book of Timothy teaches us that you've been entrusted with leadership. Today we pray for the future of this nation and that you would lead this president into greater levels of compassion for your name's sake. We pray that you would protect him from the iniquities of evil and that you would give him greater clarity, greater courage, and greater capacity to do what is right in the forever challenges.
I love to watch Trump's face as he fumes when the pastor prays in a way that does not sit right with his ego. I would pay £2,000 to watch that on repeat, and I can bet you MAGA sadists are somewhere fuming right now. This is rare footage, a prayer breakfast where he can't just bulldoze the room with ego and grievance. A pastor actually says the quiet part out loud: compassion, community, responsibility. And suddenly the performance wobbles. If you love explosive content like this and want to see more, click that subscribe button.
You know, I never get a fair break from the fake news, which is back there. That's a lot of fake news. Because last time I was having a lot of fun. We had a big crowd. We had 60,000 people, and I'm talking about the fact that I will never make it to heaven. I will never, ever. And I was being funny. I was trying to be, you can't be sarcastic with them because they write your words, and they don't. The people who are reading the words are much different than. But I say, I'm never going to make it to heaven. I just don't think I qualify. I don't think there's a thing I can do, but all of these good things I'm doing, including for religion, religion's back now hotter than ever before. I mean, I have to tell. But I said, even though I did that and so many other things, I named things, I said, I won't qualify. I'm not going to make it to heaven. And the New York Times did a front page story that Donald Trump is questioning his life and the meaning of his life. No, I was just having fun. I really think I probably should make it. I mean, I'm not a perfect candidate, but I did a hell of a lot of good for perfect people.
Right, so we roll straight into Trump doing what he always does when there's even the faintest whiff of accountability in the room. He turns it into a bit. A little stand-up routine. At a prayer breakfast. Because of course, he's there talking about I'll never make it to heaven. Then I was being funny. Then actually I probably should make it. Mate, pick a lane. You can't do the humble sinner act and the self-canonization in the same breath. And notice how the whole thing isn't reflection. It's grievance. Fake news back there. Poor me, the paper's misquoted my joke. And I'm sat here thinking, hang on, people are struggling. Families are scared. The country's on edge. And you're workshopping punchlines about your eternal destiny. That's not leadership. That's image management with a hymnal in the background.
I don't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I really don't. And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they certainly don't give us their vote. I certainly know that we're not going to be convincing them to vote for a little thing called voter ID. It polls at 97%. And even the Democrat, the people, the voters, are at 82% for voter ID, but the leaders don't want to approve it. They said they will strike, they will not allow it to happen. It's polling at over 90%. It's called voter identification. When you go to the polls, you show, yes, my name is so-and-so, and I live in the country. I'm here, I can vote. They say, that's not allowed. And no, everyone's trying to figure it out. And they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat. But let's get on to another subject. No, at that, they're the finest, probably anywhere in the world, I would say. But we're trying to pass voter ID and other things having to do with your religion. And getting the Democrats to vote is very, very tough.
And then, right, here's where it gets interesting. Because the room finally stops being his personal comedy club. And someone actually treats the moment like, a prayer breakfast. The pastor gets up and he doesn't do the usual flattery routine. He prays for greater compassion, for clarity, for the poor, for families burying loved ones. And hang on, he slips the knife in politely. Millions of lives are in this president's hands. He can lift the country, or reduce it to chaos and suffering. That's not partisan theatre. That's moral accountability. And the contrast is brutal. One bloke is talking about community, dignity, the basic idea that freedom means everyone's freedom, and Trump's over there itching to turn it back into a grievance rally, because he can't stand a setting where he isn't the star, not even in church.
Without you, none of us can adjudicate the overwhelming details of leadership and life. Today we pray for America and we pray for all parliamentarians around the world. The book of Timothy teaches us that you've been entrusted with leadership. Today we pray for the future of this nation and that you would lead this president into greater levels of compassion for your name's sake. We pray that you would protect him from the iniquities of evil and that you would give him greater clarity, greater courage, and greater capacity to do what is right in the forever challenges. Today we remind him that the lives of millions of people are in his hands and that he has the power to turn mourning into dancing or to reduce the country into a cosmic elegy of chaos and suffering. And it is because of this that we pray that the best of this president would rise among us. For the sake of this nation, for the sake of this world, we pray that goodness and mercy would announce themselves in his life in new and powerful ways. We pray that he would be mindful of the poor and that he would be invested in the elevation, the alleviation of suffering happening on farms in the Midwest, in the families preparing to bury their loved ones in Minneapolis. Remind him that we are all Americans, all made in the image of God, and that none of us are free unless all of us have our freedoms protected.
And speaking of not being able to share oxygen, watch how quickly he pivots from "please pray for compassion" to whatever this is with foreign leaders. Because the second it's not about him, he has to turn it into a weird little dominance theatre. So he spots the president of the Congo, and it's all "very brave, wonderful man." Then, wait, hang on. I know what you've been through. I know that one very well. What is that one? Which one? This isn't a pub story, mate. This is diplomacy. And that's the problem. He treats international relations like a personal anecdote competition. No specifics, no respect for context, just vague insinuations and a pat on the head. Meanwhile, the world is watching the United States, and we look unserious. You want strength abroad? It's competence. It's preparation. It's dignity. Not this rambling, self-referential improv hour.
And we're joined today by a very, very brave and wonderful man, the president of the Congo. President, would you stand up, please? You are so... President, thank you. And you really are, you're a brave man. I know what you've been through. I know that one very well. That was a hard one. That was many, many years. And it's working out okay. Nothing's easy. Every once in a while I have to call them both back, but it's working out okay. It's going to work out good. But you are brave, and we appreciate you being here. Great honor. Great honor. Good guy. Together, he and I have...
And speaking of rambling, because my brain cannot let this go, he does that awkward, half-remembered shout-out to a foreign leader. And then, wait, watch the pivot. He's right back to the same tired domestic shtick. We're cleaning up Washington. Right, sure. Here's the problem. The so-called clean-up story is always code. It's never about rooting out corruption with boring stuff like audits, ethics rules, or transparent procurement. It's about flexing power, blaming the swamp, and then quietly staffing the place with loyalists who'll rubber stamp whatever madness comes down the line. And when he brags about toughness, raids, roundups, monsters, all that chest thumping, it's not governance. It's theatre. It's fear as a campaign strategy. Meanwhile, the grown-up alternative is painfully simple. Competence, oversight, and actually improving people's lives, not just performing outrage and calling it reform.
Sad thing, and I tell it. I went over to Davos. They invited me. And when I left, they said, that may have been the stupidest invitation we ever gave to somebody, Switzerland. But they have to, I just say it like it is, they're destroying their country. Their energy is ridiculous, what they've done. And the immigration is, I'm telling you, it's a place where many of these countries are not recognizable, and I'd like to see them straighten it out. Very soon, it's going to be impossible for them to straighten it out. We have our director of...
And speaking of performing outrage, did you catch how quickly he swerves from prayer breakfast piety into culture war bingo? It's like whiplash with a hymn book. And look, this is the bit I need people to sit with. A pastor stands there, calmly, earnestly, basically saying have some compassion. And Trump's response is to huff, pivot, and sell grievance like it's merchandise. That right there is the whole story. One side is begging for empathy, for unity, for the bare minimum of moral seriousness. The other side is doing crowd work, blaming fake news and treating immigration and voting like props in a permanent audition. So here's my ask. Don't just rage watch. Talk to someone. Check your registration. Show up locally. Hold leaders to standards that actually matter. Truth, decency, competence. And yeah, tell me in the comments, how are you supposed to pray for the nation while cheering cruelty?
Happened. You know, we took out 2,000 monsters out of Washington, D.C. It's not just that we have the troops, and they are central casting. I love them. I think, to me, it looks much more beautiful. You walk down the street, you have three guys that are 6'6" and angry-looking people, but they actually are very nice. They're angry when they see criminals. That's all. They get angry. They took Tren de Aragua, and honestly, I don't want to say this, but they beat the crap out of them. They beat the crap out of them. They found that they were doing bad things, and Tren de Aragua didn't want anything to do with these guys. Then we put them in the paddy wagon. We took them back to where they came from. You know that. But we took out over 2,000 hardcore criminals. You know, 2% of the population produces 90% of the violent crime. Think of that.